Welcome back. The discovery of what could be the remains of 215 children at the former Kamloops residential school has sparked renewed focus on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, including calls to create a registry of school cemeteries and inform families of burial locations. The Minister of Crown-Indigenous Relations, Carolyn Bennett, joins me now from Toronto. Nice to see you, Minister.
It's good to see you, Rosie.
You said this week that money will be distributed now on an urgent basis to help communities who want to do this kind of work, $27 million. Have you already heard from communities? How is that going to start to unfold, given that I know you want it to be the communities who make those decisions?
You're so right, Rosie, and I think that that it was very clear with the engagement with the National Centre on Reconciliation that we actually needed to do the engagement to find out what kind of a program would be appropriate. And so you're right, they decided it needed to be Indigenous-led, community-based, survivor-centric, as well as culturally sensitive, and that they wanted the program to be flexible, but that there would be access to research dollars, archaeological expertise, commemoration. And so we are already receiving some letters from communities, and the design of the program is, I think, very, very flexible and accessible, such that we will be able to support communities do things in the way that they choose. As you know, Rosie, in terms of after residential schools, different communities made different decisions.
That's right.
Some wanted them all torn down. Some of them, it's a museum. Some of them, like Tanaha, is a hotel with classrooms and language labs and all kinds of things. So each community will be able to decide what they want to do.
I'm not sure how much of the show you've seen, Minister, but I did speak to Cardinal Collins of the Archdiocese of Toronto off the top of the show. And I spoke to him about not only the call for an official apology, but also the release of further documents from the Catholic Church. He called the comments that the Prime Minister made on Friday unhelpful, and that the Prime Minister was not well informed about the documents that the Catholic Church, to his knowledge, had given over everything already. What would be your response to that statement from the Cardinal?
Well, that is not my understanding. I think that we still believe there are documents within the Catholic Church, and whether it's the Oblates or the Vancouver Diocese, people saying that there are things that they would like to be able to present now to the National Centre on Truth and Reconciliation. I also think that the Cardinal needs to be part of the process. The Canadian Council on Bishops I met with them a number of years ago. I have asked to meet with them again. The Prime Minister asked the Pope to apologize when in the visit in 2017. Mm-hmm. Catholics across this country, and frankly all Canadians, are demanding that church do better. And I think that when the Prime Minister is speaking the truth on behalf of Canadians, that it's unhelpful for the Cardinal to call the Prime Minister's remarks unhelpful. You've actually got to get on with this. It is the only thing that unlocks the healing. It was very clear in the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This is what they heard coast to coast to coast. And it's now time for the Church to stop avoiding what the work they have to do so that these families and survivors can get on with the healing.
Yeah, the remnants of the things that we are all trying to fix are complex and very, very difficult. But one of the things that some people have pointed to this week is the foster care child care program system in this country, something that your government moved to try and fix with C-92 just a year ago. There are still, obviously, this hasn't happened overnight, and there are still too many children, Indigenous children, in care. I wonder if you believe that those children are at risk and that this has to be fixed quickly, or they too will be damaged in a real fundamental way for a long time.
Thank you so much for the question, Rosie. This is unbelievable that in this day and age we are still removing children from their language and culture, knowing the damage that happens. Not only that they lose their language and culture, they lose their family connections. They age out of care as young, teenagers with no supports. This is an industry that has to be broken down. And that's why I think Minister Miller and I were so pleased on Friday to sign the Anishinaabe Nation agreement, where they will assert their jurisdiction on their children and youth and to be able to bring their children home. We know in all of the hearings on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, the pre-inquiry, I heard every single family or survivor, the attachment to the child and family system, child abuse, these were things that actually were the absolute root causes of this ongoing tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women, obviously in terms of our colonial policies of the Indian Act and residential schools as well. But true reform to the child and families system is really important. As you know, Rosie, up till now it's been provincial. And so each of the nations will have to disentangle some of those agreements they have with agencies and provinces and territories. Mm-hmm. But First Nations and Métis, Inuit, they know we've got their back, and this is about decolonizing. Decolonizing, healing is decolonizing therapy, is what the Hollow Water, study showed in 2002. So this is urgent work. And that the kids should grow up with people and language and culture and be proud of who they are. This is about a secure personal cultural identity that immunizes kids. They need to be, they end up with better health, education, and economic outcomes if they're proud of who they are.
So I guess to my point then, Minister, what can you do to make that move more quickly? I know that we've been living through a pandemic, so things have been difficult, but yes, you've signed one agreement on Friday. How many more do you have to go in order to get to a place where children are being kept inside their communities?
Well, I think Minister Miller's done actually the Cowessess First Nation in Saskatchewan has done extraordinary work as they develop their child well-being laws. I think across the country, we're seeing this as a tremendous incentive for nation rebuilding and for nations to move on that path to self-determination and really having jurisdiction over their children and youth is a huge incentive to get on with that work.
I asked both Phil Fontaine earlier in the show and Murray Sinclair whether they felt, that things were going at the right speed or should be going faster. Phil Fontaine said he's realistic. Murray Sinclair says this is generations of work. How would you evaluate your progress as a government on reconciliation?
Well, I think we've always known that it's a journey, not a destination. The colonial state will always have to have corrections to make sure that we have moved to a partnership, not paternalism. And it is going to be important that we respect the laws and policies and legal practices of Indigenous nations, coast to coast to coast, and we're doing that work. And we believe of the 94 calls to action, we're 80% along, either completed or well underway. But again, we want all Canadians to feel part of this. And I think that's what we're seeing with the revelation in Kamloops. I think what we're seeing is this is George Floyd, Joyce Echaquan. This means all Canadians know we've got to do better and that they can be part of decolonizing. They can be part of healing, and that they need to learn from climate change to putting children first to women's roles, that this is really important that all Canadians feel this. And the things that have happened this week, the legislation on the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, the changes to the citizenship oath, as well as the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, we're getting there, Rosie.
Okay, Minister, we got to leave it there. Thank you. I know it's your first time on the show. Won't be your last. Appreciate it. Carolyn Bennett, Minister of Crown-Indigenous Relations. Thank you so much.